Welcome to Tamil Travels. In today's video, we are going to talk about latest travel advice for traveling from London to various destinations within India. In this video, we're going to talk about the Vande Bharat mission, the air bubble arrangement, COVID test requirements, and also quarantine requirements when you land in India. So you guys would have seen my previous videos. So Vande Bharat mission is a mission organized by Indian government, so which is to repatriate the Indian citizens who are stuck in UK, and also to travel back the British citizens who are stuck in India, plus also the visa holders. So under Vande Bharat mission, we have Air India, which operates flights between India and United Kingdom. An air bubble arrangement, we have flights operated by British Airways, Vistara, and Virgin. So all these three airlines operate under air bubble arrangement between UK and India. So due to the identification of new mutant strain in UK, so India had temporarily banned the flights between UK and India in the beginning of end of December until beginning of Jan. So that temporary ban was lifted, and flights between India and UK were operational, and it came under a new SOP which was valid until 31st of January. So although Indian government have not provided another feedback or any information of the extension of the deadline, so we assume the deadline or the SOP has been extended until we get a new guidelines. So under the guidelines which was issued on 8th of January, the flights between India and UK are operational. So each Indian and British carriers have 15 flights. So totally there are 30 flights between India and UK. And the passengers need to carry COVID negative certificate before boarding the flight, and that test should have been taken within 72 hours of departure. And along with that, the passengers who are traveling to India needs to complete Air Suvidha self-declaration form. So in order to board the air bubble flights like British Airways, Vistara and Virgin, and also the Vande Bharat mission, Air India, all the passengers need to take COVID test, and the result has to be negative. So this is a mandatory requirement, and if you don't have a COVID negative test result, you won't be allowed to board, and there is no exemption of any cases. So even if you're traveling for emergency, you need to make sure you have a COVID negative test result. So the airlines have been strictly instructed to verify a COVID negative test result before you are allowed to board the flight. So along with that, you need to complete Air Suvidha self-declaration form. And if you're traveling by British Airways, BA have a separate travel declaration form which you need to complete and send it. I have provided all the links below in the description. So on arrival in India, so you're traveling from UK to any Indian cities, majority of the airports like Bombay, Delhi, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, so all of these airports are entitled to receive the passengers traveling from UK. So as soon as the passenger arrives in these locations, they will be subjected to COVID test, and this COVID test is for all passengers, even including the infants. So all the passengers will be subjected to COVID test, and only when the result comes negative, they will be allowed to exit the airport or take the further connecting flights. So COVID test requirement. The COVID test needs to be taken 72 hours before the departure time. For example, if your flight is on 4th of February at 2 p.m., so you should have taken the COVID test anytime after 2 p.m. on 1st of February. So that's the condition. So you can take the COVID test anytime after 2 p.m. on the 1st, so which will qualify for the 72-hour window. So for the age criteria for taking COVID test. So in Air India, so if you're flying by Air India to any destination within India from London, so kids above 5 years of age needs to take COVID test. So any kids who are below 5 years, they don't need COVID test to be taken. And for British Airways, so the recent travel information what we received from few of the people who flew recently, kids above 1 year are required to take COVID test. So only infants are exempt from being taken COVID test at UK. So British Airways, I don't know for what reason they have introduced that rule, but some of the passengers were denied boarding because the kids were not having a COVID test certificate. So please make sure you contact the airlines and check what is the age criteria. I'm still waiting for information from Vistara and Virgin. So as soon as I hear about the age criteria for boarding Vistara and Virgin, I will update this video. So now let's look at individual destination. So first let's start with Delhi. So we have some changes to the arrival process at Delhi. So in order to go to Delhi, you can travel via Air India, British Airways, Air Vistara and Virgin. And all these airlines flies direct to Air India, Delhi. So arrival process, until few days back, Arvind Kejriwal's government had introduced a rule stating any arriving passengers into Delhi, irrespective of the COVID test result taken at the airport, all of them will be subjected for 7 days institutional quarantine. All of them would have been taken to a hotel and they would have to pay from their own expense and complete a 7-day institutional quarantine followed by home quarantine. So that rule has been relaxed. So you could fly by any of those airlines, Air India, British Airways, Vistara and Virgin. So on arrival at Delhi airport, all the passengers will be subjected to COVID test. Any arriving passenger in those flights from UK, you need to pay some amount. I think it's about 1,200 rupees, and they will take COVID test. And the result takes roughly about 8 to 10 hours. And until then, you need to wait at the airport. And only if the result comes negative, you will be allowed to exit into Delhi. Or if you have a connecting flight, you will be allowed to take the connecting flight. So this is the latest news if you're traveling to Delhi. So the state government have scrapped the rule which requires 7-day institutional quarantine, and any people who are arriving into Delhi are allowed to exit the airport provided they get COVID negative test result which was taken at the airport. So now let's look at Mumbai. So as I said in the previous video, so there are no changes to Mumbai arrivals or the quarantine process. So any passengers who are traveling from London Heathrow to Mumbai or Bombay, you have different options like Air India, British Airways, Virgin and Vistara. So all these airlines are flying direct to Mumbai. So let's see the arrival process. First is passengers who are traveling into the state of Maharashtra, and second category is the passengers who are traveling to other states. The first category. So if you are traveling into Maharashtra, on arrival at Mumbai airport, the authorities will take further COVID test and you need to wait at Mumbai airport until the results come. So once the result comes as negative, the passengers who are traveling into Maharashtra could be any district. So all of those people will be taken to institutional quarantine for 7 days. So all passengers who are traveling into state of Maharashtra will have to undergo 7-day institutional quarantine and followed by home quarantine once the institutional quarantine is done. So the second category, the passengers who are flying through Bombay, like they have connecting flight to other states, all those passengers, based on the recent experiences, so all the transit passengers were allowed to exit the airport without any additional COVID test. So any passengers, for example, I know few people who flew to Chennai via Bombay. So all those passengers had COVID test before boarding the flight in United Kingdom. On arrival at Bombay, they were allowed to exit the airport to catch the connecting flight. There were no COVID tests taken for them. So that's about Bombay. There are no major changes. All the people who are traveling into Maharashtra will have to undergo 7-day institutional quarantine, and any passengers who have connecting flight, they will be allowed to exit the airport without any issue. So now let's look at Bangalore. So Bangalore as well, there are no changes to the existing process. So Air India and British Airways are flying direct to Bangalore, and arrival process is similar to the previous video. So as soon as the passengers arrive at Bangalore, all the passengers irrespective of the destination will be taken COVID test, and this includes for infants as well. So the test cost about 1200 rupees, and you need to wait at the airport until the results come, and the results take approximately 4 to 6 hours. And on arrival, once the result comes negative, the passengers will be allowed to exit Bangalore airport, and you can either go to home quarantine if you're traveling within Karnataka, or if you have a connecting flight, or if you're traveling to Tamil Nadu or Kerala or Andhra Telangana by road, you can continue with the further journey. So Bangalore, there are no change in the existing process. So all arrivals will undergo COVID testing at the airport, and they will be allowed to exit the airport if the result comes negative. Let's look at Chennai. For Chennai as well, there are no changes to the existing process. Unfortunately, Chennai is not on the list of cities who are eligible to accept travelers from UK. So, in order to travel to Chennai, you have to either take a transit flight. You can either travel from London to Chennai via Bangalore, Delhi, or Bombay. So these are the feasible options in order to travel to Chennai. So, arrival process. So, you will be taking a transit flight from any of those above said cities. So, the arrival process will be similar to those of Bangalore, Bombay, and Delhi. You need to complete all those formalities in those airport, and then you can take the connecting flight into Chennai. So you need to be aware of few things if you're taking a transit flight to Chennai. For some of the UK passengers who flew recently from London to either Bombay or Bangalore or Delhi, so those passengers, they were subjected to further COVID test once they landed at Chennai. So all those passengers were taken to Feathers Hotel, and they were asked or requested to wait in the Feathers Hotel until the results came. And the results took about 8 hours roughly. And until then, those passengers who were subjected to further COVID test were waiting in the Feathers Hotel. So once the results came negative, all those passengers were allowed to go home or continue their journey further. And this was not for all the cases, it was only for few people who experienced this. So at the moment, we don't know what criteria Chennai airport is following. So in case if you're catching a connecting flight from Delhi or Bombay or Bangalore, you might be subjected to further COVID test at Chennai. So I would say be prepared. If you can, the best way to travel to Chennai is you fly into Bangalore, and once you finish the exit formalities at Bangalore airport, you can just either take a road, you can take a taxi, or you can ask somebody from your home to come and pick you up. By that way, it might be easier rather than going through another COVID test at Chennai airport. So let's look at major cities within Tamil Nadu. So if you're planning to go to Madurai or Coimbatore or Trichy, you can either take a transit via Bangalore, Bombay, or Delhi. And once you finish the exit formalities in those locations, you can take a domestic flight to any of these cities within Tamil Nadu. So the best option will be to fly via Bombay, because in Bombay or Mumbai airport, the passengers who are traveling from UK, they didn't, if they had a connecting flight, the airport authorities did not take additional COVID test, and they were allowed to go to the exit the airport to catch their connecting flight. So if you're planning to travel to any cities within Tamil Nadu or any other major cities within India, so the best way to travel at the moment is via Bombay. So you catch a flight from London to Mumbai and you finish the formalities, and then you come out of the airport and you are allowed to take the connecting flight to your destination. So let's look at Hyderabad. So to travel to Hyderabad, you can fly by a British Airways. So BA has direct flight to Hyderabad, and or you can either take a transit flight via Bombay, Delhi, or Bangalore. So arrival process, it's similar to Bangalore. All the passengers who are traveling from Heathrow into Hyderabad, you will be subjected to COVID test, and you have to wait at the airport until the results come. It may take from 4 to 6 hours for the results to come, and once the results come negative, you will be allowed to go home and observe home quarantine. So it's simple and similar to what Bangalore is following at Hyderabad. So we saw the travel advice for various destinations. Now let us discuss what's going to happen when the result comes positive. So on arrival at the airport like Delhi, Bangalore and Hyderabad or Bombay, what happens when you get the COVID test result as positive? So if you have positive test result, there are two criterias. The first criteria is if you tested positive for the old COVID strain. So if you get that, you will be taken to institutional quarantine in a hotel probably for 14 days, and then you need to complete self isolation in an institutional quarantine for 14 days, and they will take additional tests at the end of the days, and once you get negative test result, you will be allowed to go home. That's the first criteria. The second criteria is if you test positive for the COVID new strain. If you get positive for the COVID new strain, you will be taken to an isolation ward, probably in a government hospital. You will be isolated and you will be admitted there for 14 days, and on negative test at the end of 14 days you would be allowed to exit home. So this is not only yourself, the passengers who were sat in your row and the 3 rows before your seat and 3 rows after your seat, all of them will be subjected to the same rule. So home quarantine is 14 days. So as soon as you reach home, you will receive a call from the city corporation office or state government officials. They will make sure you are at home and following the quarantine rules and you are self-isolating. They will also make home visits to take COVID test, and they will keep following up, and this is happening for most of the people. So if you're having plans to go and visit your friends and as a family, please forget it. Make only essential travels, otherwise you will be subjected to monitoring, and the state government officials or city officials will ensure you are following the home quarantine very strictly. Thanks for watching this video. I am hoping this information is all valuable and you did benefit from this. So if you have any queries, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I will try to assist and provide my best information and valid information so that your travel is hassle free. And please don't forget to share your travel experience so it will be helpful for others. Thank you and see you again.